This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
Welcome back to the Hockeytown West Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
Nick's giving me weird eyebrows through the camera here. I don't know how I feel about this.
That's an effect. Apple. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, right, sure. You're trying to get an Apple, blame it on an Apple effect. I like it. Well, happy Monday, sir. How are you doing, man?
This daylight savings time and being in another city has really changed my whole biological mental time clock. So yesterday was very rough, and that's why we did not record yesterday. A lot of travel, a lot of time, and just I feel like you guys' schedule for work, you guys have some downtime, and my work schedule is very I have downtime sometimes, but then when we're busy, we're real busy, and I miss a whole week. I have no idea what goes on in the outside world, which is true if you're included in this group chat of ours.
Nick's always about a week behind for everything.
Yeah, I'm breaking the Tatar trade from Seattle Kraken from back in December. I don't know. I know Tyler was ticked about that, but
yeah, you can't throw random trades out into existence that they are not paying attention to when they're writers that write about the sport.
I mean, they weren't random. They were real trades. They did happen just a few months ago.
That's fair. Yeah, you had a crazy weekend. You and the lady went to Chicago for a little bit, so you were an hour behind us, or an hour, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what we were. Chicago's an hour behind, right?
Yeah.
And then we sprung forward?
Yes.
So we were the same time.
No.
Yeah, we were out in Michigan time. We still ended up late at the Toledo game, so
yeah. Nick was stuck in the past, but should have been in the future.
Yes. It was a weird glitch.
Well, let's jump into this, man. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got the trade deadline or post-trade deadline talk. We've got a bunch of different roster changes and news with the team to talk about. And that's not even talking about Toledo. That'll be for Thursday. And obviously, we've got two full Griffins games to recap here, too. Their game Friday against Chicago at home, and then their game on the road against Milwaukee. So, trade deadline. Let's jump into it. It was pure chaos, right? So much happened. We made 60 trades that day, right?
As the league, probably. I was so busy I didn't even get to catch it. I know you were able to kind of watch and keep an eye on what was going on and what was happening and the rumors. The one rumor I saw I was happy about, but that didn't come to fruition. So
yeah, the only trade that impacted the Detroit Red Wings and Griffins was Clint Costin heading over to San Jose. In return, a 7th-round pick for the Red Wings, and Radim Simic, I think I'm going to pronounce it right. I've heard Bob pronounce it a couple different ways already talking about him. I'm sure we'll get an official pronunciation when he debuts for the Griffins tomorrow in Cleveland. But we gained a veteran defenseman with a ton of experience for Grand Rapids, and the Wings got another pick out of the deal, and it's another depth guy that even Steve said in his presser, God forbid a call-up needed to happen, he's a potential that could fill in anywhere. He was the San Jose Barracuda's captain. So we brought in more good leadership. It sounds like Dan's already speaking very, very highly of him as a player. It looks like he can throw the body around a little bit too. And he's just another solid defenseman. He's 31 years old. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds, shoots left. And with the Barracuda this year, he played 40 games, had 16 points, 12 assists, 4 goals, 29 penalty minutes. And he was a +4. And, he played 44 games for the San Jose Sharks last season in the NHL. So didn't have much points there and same amount of penalty minutes. But, he's an interesting guy. It's someone that I'll be interested to get a look at. I'm glad to see another veteran kind of brought in with this very young group of kids we have. And who knows what's going to happen with Detroit with injury or whatever going into the playoffs here. It's good to have a piece like that back there. I think Simon gets called up at some point in time if something happens. We've got a guy.
yeah, the Radim Simic, I'm looking at stats, and when you kind of describe him, I'm thinking Josiah Didier, Josiah was the captain, got a lot of penalty minutes, probably sat out a couple games based off the veteran rule, And then when I pull up his stats, he's an Albert Johansson. His stats are very similar to Albert's. Albert's at 48 games, 5 goals compared to 4 for Simic, 11 assists for Albert, 12 for Redeem, 16 plus minus 16 points for both, and what's this? A +5?
Yeah.
+5 for Albert and a +4 for Redeem. So I mean, we're just getting an older Albert Johansson out of this. And the penalty minutes are very similar too, 29 to 32. So I mean, I love the play. It's bringing another veteran depth for defense in case somebody has an injury or somebody gets called up. I thought when I first saw this, I thought there was maybe been another trade coming along the lines of like Hole or Petrie or Mata. And that cleared up space for Simon to go up, and then this guy was going to replace Simon in the lineup. That's what I thought initially, and then that trade never came out or happened. But this guy also, I think his contract expires after this season.
I think you're correct on that.
Which
I didn't look too much in details at his contract, more just about like his history here.
If he stays, great. If he doesn't, like, there's no harm, no foul because we have Palika coming, we have Anton Johansson, we have Andrew Gibson. Like, we have so many other people coming up in the ranks. So I mean, it's a good cap move, really, and it provided depth for us. Because I think Steve looks at the organization, he looks at Grand Rapids. I think the playoff run is coming through Grand Rapids. It's going to be a little bit longer than Detroit's.
Yeah, I mean that's what we fully expect. And yes, just to confirm, he is an unrestricted free agent after this season. So yeah, I think everyone should understand the fact that I mean Red Wings could go deeper. That would blow our minds and be amazing. But the way things are looking right now, who knows? But at the same time, like it makes sense. Stack up Grand Rapids, make everything go good there, and get us set for the playoffs. This team needs to make a deep run because he knows that veteran presence around these kids in a deep playoff run is just going to help their development even more. And that's going to be so key. These are going to be very key games for a lot of these guys. Like we said, Berge and Edvinsson probably won't learn too much in the playoffs. Simon might learn a little bit in the AHL playoffs, probably a little bit more than Berggren. But the rest of the kids, they're going to learn a ton. And they're going to have tough games. They're going to have great games. And those veteran players are going to be there to help them balance things out.
Yeah. There's like, we have to remember our trade deadline is this week. I believe it's Friday. So
The AHL one.
Yeah, the AHL could still make trades throughout Friday. Through
not the podcast trade deadline.
Yeah, not the podcast. Oh, wonder what I could get for you. You're too valuable for you to sign that contract right away, Brandon. But I mean, we are looking to add a free agent here or there, you know, a veteran presence to the podcast. It's somebody that's right-handed as well. But I think like I only got to watch and listen to about half of Steve's presser, and the big thing that I pulled out of that was he's very happy with Grand Rapids. Like he gave them so much praise throughout. Like the young guys are developing. The veterans, he called out Zach Aston Reese. He called out Tim Gettinger, which we'll talk on that in a minute. But then also like named off all the defensemen. Like he even named Vero, who's not been playing a whole lot, Tuomisto, he Vollander. I mean, he butchered their names, but it's okay. Like he called all these guys out though, and he said that everything's going well down here, and he likes the way that the team is developing and the way it's built and constructed. I think we've got to be the happiest people in the organization covering Grand Rapids. The Red Wings guys, everybody was ticked. They're like, what do you mean we didn't add anybody? We didn't get rid of anybody? Like, what is going on here? And the big thing that like you said it too, they were looking to add another forward. Steve doesn't think this defense is an issue, which is crazy to me because that's what everybody's been hammering the pot of the tables for. So we're not seeing something that Steve's seeing here of defense and forwards. Like, I don't know, it's odd, right?
What I took away from it was Steve doesn't care if the Red Wings make the playoffs or not. He gives a crap if the Griffins do. Like, that's what he wants to see. He knows the importance of these kids getting these games. We saw the focus he put on Syracuse when he was the GM in Tampa. Like, that's going to be his play. And well, you got to look at the Red Wings. Like, one player doesn't make a team. They're going to figure it out before Larkin's back. Like, they just went through the toughest stretch of their schedule probably for the rest of the season. I don't know what the rest of the season schedule looks like, but it's probably the toughest part of the schedule.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty easy the
yes,
rest of them.
and there was a blip against Arizona, right? But at the same time, you go back and look at Arizona's record at home against some top tier teams, and they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
They shut them out. They beat them. They beat them badly. Like, it's going to happen. Defensively, yeah, there's some woes in Detroit. We know who they are. Their names have been said over and over.
Whole
But at the same time, the experience those guys have when it comes to playoff time is invaluable. They might be making some questionable decisions right now, but at the same time, playoffs bring out a different type of player. Like, the only player I'm really excited to see in the NHL playoffs this year is Lucas Raymond, because Lucas is known for being a guy that rises up in big games. That's what he was known for in Sweden and all that. I want to see what he's going to do in NHL playoffs, because he's already having a fantastic year. I can't imagine what it would be taking it up another notch.
Yeah.
So I'm satisfied with it. I know Wings fans are pissed. I don't know why they're pissed. Again, we've said it before. We love this fan base, but it's the most overreactionary fan base in the NHL. Like,
I mean, I think we're tired. We're really tired of just the rebuild. Like, the Wings fans, like I'm a hardcore Wings fan, right? Like, I grew up that way. I didn't really care too much about the Griffins because I lived in the East Side, so my team was the Red Wings. I get it, like, it's been 7 years, but I also know like how process and building and developing and coaching all works, and so like I'm stoked over here because I get to watch it from the beginning and then see how it's gonna build up. And it's fantastic. Like, I'm so excited and I can't wait till everybody else sees what I see here in Grand Rapids translate over to the Red Wings. Like, it's gonna happen. You just gotta be patient. And like, looking back at some of the other guys like Joe Veleno, Rasmussen, like they're taking a little bit of time to develop. And I think I'm getting a good idea of like timeline for these kids to like when they should be in the NHL based off of previous seasons and like previous players. So I'm excited to see, like, I think Nate Danielson will take 2 years. I think Amadeus will take 2-3 years. I think, like, but then you see somebody like Anton Johansson who's playing in the Swedish league, like, you probably only take maybe a year, maybe two, you know.
it'll be 2-3 years for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. So,
For sure.
like Casper, people are calling for Casper to come up. Casper's gonna take time. Like, he's doing well, but he still needs that time to adjust because he's playing well here, but the game's faster in the NHL. Like, it's gonna take him a minute. So, I was happy at the aspect of like I see the talent. Like, I'm seeing the exact same Steve sees. He's not leveraging now for the future. Like, he said it too. He goes, everything that's out there, we have that in Grand Rapids. We can call up when needed. It's here. It's ready. Like, we're fine. We don't need to trade for the similar player we already have. So I like that piece that I pulled out of him as well.
Yeah, I mean, to come out of this trade deadline, we didn't lose a single prospect at all. We didn't lose a piece of the future. We have all of our draft picks, or at least one draft pick in every round for the next 3 seasons. Like,
The cabinet's full too right now.
it's very full. So, I mean, in the future, yeah, there's going to be pieces moved for sure. But to go out there and take the risk on a rental to make the playoffs and lose someone with the potential, like, Berkey was one of the ones talked about. Johansson was the name that every Wings fan that they wanted to toss around and do a trade. Like, without seeing their true potential and giving that away, we could have given away a diamond in the rough, and that would have sucked.
Yeah, like,
So,
I wouldn't have been surprised if like they just said Elmer. Like,
yeah,
took
the list is long that they could have, and some people are going to say should have. I disagree. I think they made the right. I think everything was perfect. We came into it going like, what did we say during our interview with Elaine? Like I said, she said Columbus, she'd be happy if she woke up and they did nothing, and I said the same for Detroit. I said, or minimal moves. They did a minimal move, freed up cap space, got us another piece at Grand Rapids, and here we are. So,
I mean, you take a look at what the league was doing too. Everybody was loading up. Florida was loading up. Vegas was loading up. Vancouver's loading up. Like, the Wings aren't even in that tier. So
No.
it doesn't make any sense to move anybody at this deadline unless you're dumping cap space to sign the guys that we already have. Like that, or make room for the guys that we already have. But they didn't do that. I really think, like what you said, the focus is on Grand Rapids. It's getting
Yep.
them to the playoffs, get the development, get the experience. The huge part that I think a lot of people overlooked too was Art. And I loved watching this today. When he mentioned, he goes, "Is it true that Bergen at 80 games, he's with Detroit or he's with Grand Rapids?" And Steve just had this sly look like, all right, you knew. Like, I don't know how he knew that. I think a lot of people missed that, didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I
So
didn't know it.
it's something now that I'm gonna just call the Berkey rule. Like, we now know that these prospects have 80 games until they're fully up there. We always look 9 or 10 games for the ELC, and then that's burned. But the 80 is like the max now he has to go through waivers, and he's like, we don't want to lose Berkey. And so he did touch on like Berkey and Simon's attitudes, their performance, and their what was the other one? Preparation or their play has all been, and motivation has been a lot better from the start of the season, which are the things that they wanted to see from them. And with them doing that, they're going to get more playing time, which is what they needed. And they're getting that here so that they can make that next step. So everybody needs to relax.
Simmer down. It'll
Relax.
be fine.
Yeah.
Focus on Grand Rapids. It's the cool place to be right now.
Yeah, it is.
Clearly, it's a cool place to be because Mr. Tim Gettinger got an extension today. The Red Wings announced that they signed him for another year, another 1-year, 2-way deal for Mr. Gettinger, which is huge for Grand Rapids when you start thinking about next season too. I mean,
because he's a big guy, 6'3".
He's a big guy. 51 games played this season though, 12 goals, 13 assists for 25 points, and only 16 penalty minutes. He's so responsible on the ice. He's a great veteran presence. He can score. He's really good in the shootout. Like, it's a great move, and I'm super happy to see that. It's the first of probably many extensions or that we'll see coming up here across the organization. We assume Steve has a lot of work to do based on the amount of UFAs and RFAs he has to work with. So outside of that, obviously you picked it up or said it earlier. Berkey got called up. Berggren is in Detroit. And it looks like that might be permanent for the rest of this season, at least.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because he is our top goal scorer. He's our top, like the team plays so differently with him in there. I saw that Friday while they were at home. So it's just like, I wish we had another time. Like, I wish we had more time with him. Everybody else is like, finally he's there. And then I heard he didn't play too well with the Wings.
He had a bad giveaway in his first game that resulted in a goal, but at the same time he turned around and drew a penalty right after that. Like, it was his first game back.
Yeah.
In the NHL.
It's
Playing
like
with
October.
Very different people.
Oh yeah.
At the same time still. Like, this
Patrick
is well, yeah, right. He's had to go from learning the new team at Grand Rapids, then he got called up briefly, and then he had to go back to Grand Rapids and still get adjusted to everybody else there, and now he gets through into the NHL here, and here you go, you're still going to get readjusted to all these new people you did not play with last season. But I mean, if he plays 3 more games, he can't come back without going through waivers. He ain't clearing waivers.
Yeah,
and we're not giving up Berggren for nothing. So what this tells me is that all the rumors about his attitude, all the rumors about the organization being done with him, they don't exist. Those weren't real. Those were rumors.
Yeah.
They were ugly rumors. And I'm glad that that's not the case. The organization still believes in him. He's getting his shot. And if it's through the rest of the season and he can help get this Red Wings team into the playoffs, Berkey in the NHL playoffs is going to, 1, learn more than he'd learn here. 2, be so much darn fun. Like, when I saw him first night, second line, like, yeah, no wonder he had a rough game. Like, he just got thrusted into the second line in the NHL, playing with, I think it was Veleno and Raymond. It's definitely people he's not used to playing with. He didn't get those opportunities in Detroit before. So I'm excited for him. I'm going to miss him, but at the same time, it was time. And he's earned the shot. Especially look at this year. I mean, 46 points in 43 games this season. It's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it creates a huge hole for us at GR. That's why I'm like sad because it's like, who's gonna replace that offensive output? And we thought about a month ago, I thought Matt Luff might be able to be the guy to do it, but he's just not that same tier as Jonathan Berggren, you know. But
Oh, duh. I mean, Matt Luff and Berge are two different players, but Luff will get there. Again, he's going through the same process the whole team had to go through.
yeah,
He's just gelling to a whole brand new team.
Yeah.
So luckily he's been playing on the top line with people he's used to for the most part. But it's going to take time. At least he's gotten a couple goals now. He's finally got that off his back. You know, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists on the season so far in his 9 games. So it's okay. But Berkey being gone is just going to mean some kids have to step up. I mean, some veterans are going to have to step up and produce a little more too, which they obviously will. But the kids are going to have to be just that much better. Carter's going to have to be just that much better. Casper's going to have to be that much better. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how much more Elmer steps up, and it'll be interesting to see what Amadeus can start to step up and do too on the score sheet. So
I'm happy that the Berge jersey lasted one more trade deadline. Like, I bought it the week prior last year, and we made it through. I wasn't thinking, and then this year I'm like, does it make it through it? Okay, I think it's safe to buy that 48. You know, have it restitched. I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll wait till the contract's signed, but then I'll send it into vintage and have it restitched. But yeah, I'm happy. He's, like I said, his attitude's been better. He's been playing well. I hope he stays with Detroit. I hope this is like his proving point. It is a tough. The Vegas was a tough draw for him. He played Vegas. It was Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Vegas
I forgot to mention that first game. You play Vegas. Have fun.
So I couldn't remember if it was Vegas or Coyotes. But yeah, playing against Vegas, like that's a tough stretch. That's a tough team. That's a good team. And he's trying to readjust.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. But last thing before we jump into the game, we got to talk about some injuries that have happened that are kind of hurting the Griffins a little bit here. So I think it was in practice at some point in time, William Vollinder took a puck. He missed this past weekend, so he did not play Friday, Saturday. Should be good to go on Tuesday in Cleveland. It's definitely felt his presence wasn't there. You could definitely feel that gap back there. That was weird. You don't think about much about him because he's buried in the third pairing back there and he's so sheltered. But at the same time, like, he's really, really crucial. It's crazy. So it'll be good to have him back there. And then in Saturday's game, which we'll talk about more, Simon Edmondson did take a puck on a block shot as well, went down, still got up or got to his knees and still made a great defensive play. What a freaking guy. But he did not return to that game, which is scary. So he missed a period and a half in Milwaukee there, and you could definitely feel that his presence was missed for the rest of that game too. I think with him, they could have probably won that game. But he's out. We don't know details. Hopefully before the broadcast tomorrow, we get details, or hopefully we just see him on the ice and things will be great.
That's best case scenario.
That is.
Because they're not gonna tell anybody anything until game time. And if he's not in the lineup, then we can assume. I mean, we can assume nothing.
Well, yeah, we assume nothing.
Because you just don't know in the AHL. They don't tell you any of the injury instances. So Bob didn't say anything on the broadcast.
It was not brought up once that he didn't come back. Luckily, another Twitter page we follow, the Red Wings prospects page, brought it up and they said, I don't think I've seen him back. And I immediately started rewinding through on my iPad and was like, fuck, I don't see him either.
Yeah, you rewatched the third. You rewatched the third last night?
Yeah, I went through just to confirm because reasons.
We want to be factual with everything we say and do and post.
Yes, we take a lot of pride in that. We'll talk about that more later. But hopefully we know details before the game in Cleveland. If not, we'll continue to wait for details because that's just how it goes in the minor leagues, unfortunately.
We should have asked Waddy on Sunday when we were in Kalamazoo. He was right there. We could have asked him.
We should have. That would have been.
I didn't know until at the end of the night. I didn't know that he had even gone out or injured or nothing because I wasn't able to watch the game Saturday. I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you here, just because of how long we've been talking. I think we got to get to the ad break here, and then we'll jump into our recap of the weekend for the Griffins against the Wolves in Milwaukee. How's that sound?
Yeah.
All right. We will send it over to DraftKings when you come back. We will be talking about everything that happened with the Griffins, the Chicago Wolves, and the Milwaukee Admirals.
This was a flipped episode. Usually we do the other. We do
We
news
changed
last.
it up.
Yeah.
I know, right? All right, Nick, go read the ad.
We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. With Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat all back and ready from the All-Star game, you've got good choices to make bets on them. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code THPN. The crown is yours. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. In Connecticut, help know for problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Will Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. cdkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
And we are back. All right, let's dive into these games because that's what half the people want to hear about anyways. They don't want to hear our opinions about the trade deadline for the 60th time from another podcast. But let's talk about these games. Griffins take on the Chicago Wolves in Grand Rapids on last Friday, March 8th. Wolves 6th in the division at the time. You think going into this should be a win. Griffins lose this one 2-1 in a shootout. It wasn't pretty. So, quick rundown of the stats here for you. Goals in this one for the Griffins, just Tara Hirose got his 7th of the season, assisted by Luff and Rafferty. The Griffins outshot the Wolves 35-27, went 0-for-3 on the power play, 1-for-1 on the PK. Your shootout shooters were Amadeus Lombardi, Tim Gettinger, and Austin Zarnik, and neither of them could close the deal there. Sebastian Kosa got the start in this one, saving 25 of 26 shots, and went 1-for-3 in the shootout. Max Comtois was the one that sealed the deal for Chicago. He was their third shooter, and he closed it out. So this one, man, I was there. You weren't. You were watching at home on this one. And I know you were probably just as frustrated just as frustrated as me when you were watching this because the Griffins could not hit the damn net to save their lives in this game and still racked up 35 shots somehow.
This game was so frustrating. I don't know another game that I was like that angry. I was yelling at the TV. I was like, this is ridiculous. Why can we not put the puck in the net? We had breakaways. They had breakaways. We had, the seams for passing were so open. And it's just like, we just could not finish. This goalie just, I don't know what it is against him and Dean Watson. Like, he just doesn't like Waddy for whatever reason. It just has his biggest games against him. But yeah, just super frustrating. And just on the play, like it was just very north-south game, you know?
It was all over the place. The Griffins missed the net a million times, couldn't bury most of their chances, and the chances they got, Adam Shield, was incredible. This is another one of those games. It's not the first time this has happened this season where you look at a guy like Sebastian Kosa, this rookie goaltender, and all you can hope from your goalie is that your goalie gives you a chance to win games and make some spectacular saves.
And he did.
Holy hell. He was incredible in this game, especially in the shootout and overtime. Oh my God. Like, it was wild. He gave them a chance, and the boys let him down, honestly. It's the second time a team from Illinois has done that in recent memory. Unfortunately, when Rockford did that to us during the snowstorm game. But his play in this game, just absolutely unreal. He continues to get better and better every game. Like, I'm so beyond impressed with his development, his confidence, his puck tracking. Everything he's doing on the ice right now is freaking perfect.
Yeah, I mean, Kosa, he had 2 breakaways. He had a couple breakaways in the third where they were going against him, and he was able to stop those. He had some crazy. There was one clip Bob and Larry were going crazy on. I couldn't see the play really, but they said it got deflected.
Was a massive toe save.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
This much of his toe getting that puck, like incredible.
I don't know. I couldn't see it. I clipped it. I put it out there. I was like, they were going crazy on it. I didn't get to see it. I couldn't understand the deflection based off the camera angle, but it's out there. He played really well. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. He had 27 shots against, saved all but one. I mean, it's just frustrating. Like, I don't know what needed to be done in this game. Like, and the one thing I asked you on Sunday when we were in Kalamazoo is I felt like the ice, like the puck, both teams were overskating the puck a couple
Yes.
times, like in both ends. Like it wasn't just on one. I was like, is the ice just not great tonight or what? Like I don't know what it was, but it led to a lot of turnovers, a lot of breakaways. Like it led to a lot of awkward, sloppy hockey. It was sloppy hockey. That's what it was.
That's the
Like,
best way to describe this
yeah,
game is sloppy. And I know I
yeah,
told you, like, the ice didn't look that bad, but the more I thought about that game after we talked about it, I was like, I think you're right. And you can clearly see the Van Andel Arena ice crew is struggling to balance a volleyball team, concerts, a basketball team, and this Griffin schedule all at once. This is all new this year to have a volleyball team tossed in there too. And the amount of shows that have been at Van Andel race recently, there's been so much going on. And you can tell that the ice is a little beat up. There was a lot of weird bounces along the wall, like there was ice buildup along the wall that it was hitting and going a different way. They're usually really good about keeping that cleaned up, and I just think it's building up again. It's but they can't blame the ice, right? Both teams are
right.
playing on the same ice,
Yeah.
and both teams miss those opportunities.
Yep.
Sloppiness is what did the Griffins in this one, because if they played like they've played recently during their streak and everything like that, this is like a 6-1 win. Like, they
Oh
would have
yeah.
blown the doors off the arena that night.
I mean, Chicago only had 2 shots on the third. 2.
Yeah, and 2 in overtime. They
Like,
got as many shots in overtime as they did in the entire third period.
it's just
But Grand Rapids only had 8 in the third. Like, defensively, the defense played well. It was just sloppy. The breakouts for both teams were sloppy. Like, they couldn't the chemistry just seemed off.
yeah.
It seemed like it was their first time playing with each other again.
It's like they needed a burger or something,
I don't think Bergie would have made too much of a difference in this game, if I'm being honest with you. I think he would have gotten more frustrated in this game, if I'm being honest with you.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
It's
that and the crazy thing about this game too is they started on the penalty kill, and Dom Shine takes it full length of the ice, can't finish, and then turns around, Sardik, I believe it was Sardik, goes
Yep.
full ice, doesn't finish. Like the puck got away from him too. Like it's just like those were 2 big opportunities to just score on the shorthanded and get ahead, and we couldn't get it. We couldn't capitalize. These are like this drives me nuts with it with both players is that they get these breakaways and they just cannot put it in.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago, we can say what we want about them. They're a feisty team full of a bunch of guys that didn't have spots with teams for the most part when they came into this season. And they've turned it on lately. They haven't been bad. They're not great by any means, and no one expects them to be great. But they're a team that going into the later parts of the season here, that if they're not going to make it or they're just going to barely make it, they're going to go try to play spoiler for everyone else and put every other team in a worse position.
They're only a point
And
behind Manitoba for a playoff
I know
spot,
they'll probably find their way in somehow. They usually do. It's
as they
Chicago.
should.
It's the Wolves. It's what they do. Unfortunately, I'd rather not have to deal with Manitoba in the playoffs. There's some bad memories of a lot of first round exits against Manitoba. There's a lot of them, especially in the Jimmy Howard era. So, yeah. So, I mean, overall in this game, I really can't call out many players. Like, it was just sloppy across the board. I think the one player I want to mention, though, that I think played above and beyond everybody else in this roster who looked like he had the most give a shit on the team
Oh,
was Austin Zarnik. I think this was one of Zarnik's best games as a Griffin. He was flying, he was all over the ice, he was throwing the body, he was doing everything right, trying to get the boys going in the right direction. And it seemed like every time the puck did a weird bounce or they couldn't land that pass or couldn't get that shot off, we got frustrated.
yeah.
Played a little emotional in this game. Not like throwing the body, throwing punches or anything like that. Just looked like frustrated with themselves and maybe overthinking it a little. I don't know. It's a lot to read into for a 1 goal game for each side. Like it's tough.
I didn't really think this was a trap game either. Like this was a game that they should have just came out and dominated straight from the start. But like
Every
you
game
said,
against the Wolves is a trap game.
I feel that against. Oh, never mind. But yeah, I mean, Sarnik played well. Like he killing penalties. He was setting up teammates. He was trying to get Matt Luff going. And that I saw that a lot. Is Luff had a chance. Luff kind of sat on it. And I'm like, dude, shoot the puck. Like put it in. You've got a good chance right there. So I mean, he's looking to get him going because I think the writing is on the wall with Berkey going to probably be up in Detroit for the rest of the season. Like he's got to get him going. So, and we're always big on him at Austin with faceoffs, and now he's looking at get everybody going like that. That's huge.
Yeah, and again, he was the best faceoff guy on the team in this game for sure, and he'll get everyone going around him. That's what he does. But seeing this feisty side of him that I haven't seen in a while. I mean, he's thrown some big hits the past couple games, and I was like, oh, who did that? Oh, Austin Sarnik. Didn't have that on my bingo card for this game. Awesome. But like seeing his play, it again shows the leader that he is in this team. He's an alternate captain for a reason. Like he's a leader on this squad, and he's trying to get the boys going. And you brought up a good point where like Luff holding on to the puck a little bit there. I've seen a lot of drifting back to some old habits where we're getting too cute with it in the passing. Like one of the things that we've loved about the hockey this team's been playing lately, these one-touch passes, this quick, perfect passing that's setting up these great plays, and everything looks fantastic on ice. And fortunately, the culprit of it a lot of the time is when it gets passed back to the blue line, and those guys hold on to it for a very long time when they're trying to make a setup. But it was a lot of receive the pass. I'm going to play around with it. I'm going to hold on to it and hesitate to make this next pass. Why? Just shoot it. Shoot it. Or quick one-touch passes. Throw the defense of the other team off. Get them all out of sorts, and you're going to have way more success. And that's what we've seen so much recently. We didn't see it in Cleveland. We didn't see it against Chicago. And I'm going to be honest with you, we didn't see it against Milwaukee. We just kind of fell back to some old habits there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So that's all I've got for this game because the Milwaukee game gets a little crazier in my opinion. But at the same time, it is unfortunate the Griffins do drop this one, and at least they got a point out of it, right?
Yeah.
That's the positive.
I thought overtime I thought we were gonna win it. I mean, we dominated that. I loved the lineup that he threw out there. At one point, it was there was Marco, Carter, and Albert Johansson. Just because, like, you put 3 young guys out there. Like this is the future for the Wings. Put them in a big situation. Those 3 kept the puck. They generated chances. They didn't let one in, and they played really well together. So like that was a huge positive for me to see. And then also the only other positive I saw that I wanted to address that Austin Sarnik, Matt Luff line was doing very well that game. Like I would have liked to see more offense, but that line's gelling, which is good.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Moving on to Saturday night in Milwaukee. Hopped across the pond over to Panther Arena in Milwaukee to take on the Admirals, the team that you just ended their 19-game win streak, and you haven't played them since. You know they're going to come out for vengeance in this one.
They haven't won since either.
They hadn't won since either. They were on a 4-game losing streak after that 19-game win streak. And oh boy, did they get their revenge on Grand Rapids. So Milwaukee wins this one 4-2. Outshoots Grand Rapids 33-21, goes 1 for 3 on the power play. Grand Rapids went 0 for 2 on the power play, scoreless on the power play again. Michael Hutchinson got the start in this one, 29 saves out of the 32 shots faced, and Yaroslav Askarov was at the other end on his bobblehead night, stopped 19 of the 21 shots and played absolutely outstanding, as one would always expect him to do. I can't stand him, but at the same time, he is an incredible talent. His puck handling sucks, but my God, can he make a flashy big save when he needs to? Holy smoke. I even clipped some of his saves at this point in this game. Like, that's how out of his mind he was playing.
Brandon, no.
Did the Griffins get goalied in this one? They did not get goalied because, again, it was another sloppy, ugly game. So let's go over the goals for the Griffins here. In the second period, Carter Mazur got the Griffins on the board finally with his 15th of the season, assisted by Marco Kasper. In the third period, Tim Gettinger got his 12th of the season, assisted by Rafferty and Mazer. That's it. Just for scoring in this one. So, other important note for this game as well, before we dive too deep into it, that Milwaukee was without LaRoe, which if you remember before, LaRoe was the big shit disturber on this team that caused the Griffins so many problems, but he also took a lot of penalties and created a lot of chaos for his own team. Yeah. And Milwaukee got a glimpse of what they could do without him. And holy smokes, did they look good. Their passing was crisp. Their offense was fantastic. Their defense was shut down for the most part. And like I said, their goaltending was fantastic. Griffins, on the other hand, this was ugly, man. Not only did Simon Edvinsson get hurt in the second period and miss the rest of the game, so they were playing with 5 defensemen for the rest of it. Obviously, it's another game without Berge. And they just looked out of sorts. The compete level wasn't there. And what I mean by the compete level wasn't there, even Bob called this out. I think it was the end of the second period. Johansson gets the puck in their zone, takes possession of it behind the net, and goes to set up a play. And you think they're going to make one last rush. It's exactly at the 22-second mark, 22 seconds left in that period. You think that's plenty of time for a rush up ice. Let's see what happens. You're down. At this point, you're down 2 goals. What are you going to do? Johansson takes the puck and just stands there behind the Griffins net and lets that 22 seconds run out. That was the point right there. I knew the Griffins lost this game. It was over. Bob called it out, just questioning it, like, why aren't you going to make a play? But me as a fan, I'm looking at that going, you're down two goals, and you just stood there for a potential rush. A quick rush up the ice, cause some chaos, and get Askarov out of sorts. The magic can happen. When you get that guy out of sorts, we can usually find the back of the net. You're not going to make the attempt? What was that? I've not seen that out of these Griffins at all this season. That was Ben Simon era, almost worse than Ben Simon era right there.
And at that point, they're being outshot by 10. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean,
it's only 2. It's what, 3-1 at that point? So I mean, you could still get a goal and go in down by 1. I mean, you could flip the script right there going into the third.
We've seen magic happen with this team in the last 2 seconds. But you're going to burn 22 seconds of the clock. Like, no, you're not winning this game at that point. You're just not. It's not going to happen. I knew it right there at the end of that period. Third period, they might score 1, but they're not winning. And boy, was I right. Frustrating. That's the most frustrated I think I've been as a fan this season. That moment. Right
Not there. Towards the refs, but towards the team.
Right, towards the team. I've been way more frustrated at officiating. And in this game, these past 2 games, they've been good. I had no complaints with the officiating in Milwaukee. None against the Wolves. They let them play. Milwaukee, there was a lot of stuff that went not called on both sides. They just let the boys play.
Well, I think that goes towards like our style of play too. Like we talk about the refs a lot, but at the same point, we're one of the lowest penalized teams in the league. So when we're seeing penalty games where we're penalized like 4, 5, 6, 7 times, like that's a lot to us. Like that's the crazy part. So that's I want to put that out there. We should have put this out there a couple episodes ago, but like when you could let them play, the flow of the game works better for us. And they had what, two penalties that game? Couldn't score on the power play. They had 3 penalties that game, and they had 2 power play opportunities, and they still didn't score on the power play. This is still not trending well.
Yeah, in a game where you go to Milwaukee, they're in a 4-game losing streak. Zach LaRue is out suspended for a game. Mark Janikowski, their second in scoring or leading scorer at that time in Nashville. Like, they're two of their top 3 guys in scoring, not in this game. And you let them walk right over you. Not that they bullied him around again by any means. There was not much of that. There was no compete. They didn't care. It looks like they didn't want to be there. And that was frustrating. And again, another night where a veteran player at least looks like he was trying his best to get the team going, and Tim Gettinger in this game, he got the goal. He played very well. He threw the body multiple times. Multiple times. He's trying to find a spark there. Didier doing the same exact thing as he usually does. Like they tried to get the boys going. And it was just like the air was out of the locker room. And I know like Fergie might be gone, but like he didn't get traded. Like you can't treat that as like, oh my God, he's gone. I get it. He's a locker room guy. He's a fun piece to have there. You should be excited. You should see he got to take that next step. I'm gonna do that same thing, right? All these kids should think that same way. And God, you'd think we traded half the team on Friday the way they played. It's crazy.
So weird.
And I don't think Hutch had a great game. He had an okay game. It wasn't his best. It wasn't his worst by any means. It was just all right. I know Dan Watson does a really good job of making sure these goalies know very far in advance of when they're going to start. I think he had the order flip-flopped in this one. I think if you're playing Milwaukee, you've got to keep Kos in there because he seems to really do a good job of frustrating that team. He's the hotter hand right now, clearly. And you put him against one of the lower division teams. Again, he played out of his mind on Friday.
Yeah.
And if we would have had that performance with what was happening in front of him on Saturday, I think this would have been a lot closer game. And I think, Hutch does a good job against the Wolves. I think that could have been maybe a different game too at the same time, or the same exact game. Who knows? But I think that decision, I would have flip-flopped it.
Yeah, they're I looked at their stats today, Kosai and Hutch, and they're dead even for games played. Still dead even. Couple more wins for Kos, better save percentage, better goals against average. Hutch has got the assist, so it's a little bit more scoring. So maybe that's why you went with Hutch in this game. Needed the scoring. I don't know. I mean, it's weird that he didn't play him again versus Askarov, but I think too is both goals. So Hutch plays a different style than Kos. And if they're scouting Kos, assuming that they're going to play Kos, like Dan's never, I haven't seen much where it's the same goalie against the same team. He's always mixing them up. He's keeping the other teams on the toes. I don't know if that's a strategy or a plan, but I've noticed that. So maybe that's why he did it.
I think it's just the way the schedule falls.
Maybe.
Like,
playoffs are going to be interesting, I think.
I think it will too. I mean, no, we'll get there. Yeah.
When we get there.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, when we get there. So, I mean, outside of that, man, nothing too else crazy in this one. I mean, obviously Simon got hurt in this, and that sucks being down a defenseman. What a night they could have gone to, 11-7 in this game, and that would have actually paid off really well, but you can't predict an injury. But hopefully, like after these couple games, like I know losing that frustrating game in Cleveland on Tuesday pissed everybody off. It pissed us off. It pissed Bob off. Like, hopefully after these 3 games, they've got it figured out a little bit because now they've lost 4 straight. Not good. They got 2 points in that stretch, but they've lost 4 straight.
The losing is taking a toll on me. Like, not only are the Wings on a bad stretch, the Griffs are on a bad stretch, Toledo's not doing great. And in just my regular life, there's a lot of losses.
Sound like you're a loser. I'm kidding.
It's like, oh, man. But,
oh, that was mean. I'm sorry.
What was I going to say? Yeah, you made me forget. Oh, we're 1 win away. Dan Watson's 1 win away from 300. 300th win. Come on. Why do you just get it in Cleveland? Right? Like that's my hope. Like, let's get back on the bandwagon. Let's get everybody back. Let's calm everybody down. Let's get this win. I mean, we still we didn't drop terribly in the standings compared to like what the Wings and like the craziness with them. But I mean, we're
still second.
Yeah, Milwaukee's at 75 points. We're at 64. Texas is at 59. Rockford's at 57. So, and then Manitoba's 48. So it's good. It's close right there between 2, 3, and 4. I'm hoping it stays this way towards the end because I do not want to play Rockford. I'd rather play Texas. And the way it stays now,
play any of them and just win. Like, is that how it works?
That'd be cool too. But the way it sits too is we would host the first round. So I would
It would be
rather us
ideal.
do that because that's the
Yeah,
best of 3?
5. As long as we're not playing the play-in, it's best of 5.
Best of 5.
Yep,
So
yep.
we'll cover
Yeah, I
that when we
mean,
get closer because that's a whole the playoffs are a whole different beast with the HL.
oh god, they're wild. The layout for it is pretty crazy. But yeah, to wrap up the Milwaukee game, like we said, uninspired, sloppy hockey. That was the best way to describe that one. And hopefully they bounce back. The boys do head to Cleveland on Tuesday or tomorrow or today, whenever this gets released. Who knows at this point? Well, they go back
Today.
to take on the Monsters on another random weekday in Cleveland because that just always goes so well. But Dan Watson does have the opportunity to win 300 in Ohio and back in Cleveland, which would be good for him. The Monsters have lost their last 2, and they dropped a spot in their standings. Actually, they're now second behind Syracuse. So hopefully we can go in there and God, if it's as frustrating as the last game, man, I think it's gonna set a spiral here of a bad stretch of games. Like if
I
they go
think
in there and they outplay them again like they have all season and lose, there's gonna be some pissed off players.
I think Tim Gattinger is going to score the overtime winner in his native land of Cleveland to
Yeah,
get
that makes
Waddy his
sense. Can we just
300.
not let it go to overtime? How about that instead? He's gonna score the game winner in
The
regulation, maybe?
third period, yeah.
I like that better. Fresh off a
Yeah,
contract, yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. So dinner's on him, boys. Sorry, Tim, if you're
Oh,
listening. But yeah, it's they gotta get back to winning hockey. That's the most important thing. I'm hoping we didn't peak too early. I'm hoping that we can start. We gelled so well. Hopefully, we can find that missing piece with Bergie up and get back on track. And maybe this is a point in time where one of the kids steps up, starts taking over, and we're like, oh, finally, here we are. We saw this all season, and now they're performing. So that's the best case scenario for tomorrow, today,
makes sense. I
whenever.
mean, Carter Mazur has been playing really well lately. We can't say that he's a step
Yeah,
up.
yes.
He's been playing extremely well. I went 2 points against Milwaukee. He went 2 games without a point, and then he had his 5-point weekend the weekend before that, and a point in the game before that. Like he's playing really well. So
I'd like to still see that line of him, uh, Casper, and Matt Luff all together.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I'd like to see some of these fourth line kids that have been buried in a little bit get a shot and see what they can do. I'm not saying that Cross Hannes is ready for that, but maybe Mr. Elmer. I think it's time. I
Elmer
think
for sure.
Elmer could step up there and, Casper centering that line with Mazur on the other side. I think that makes sense. I think that would be a fun line to watch.
That'd be a fun line.
Amadeus doesn't slot in there unless he's playing wing or Casper's playing wing.
Hey, maybe change it up. That might be a different look. I mean, they do it
See him
on
as
the
a
power
winger.
play. They do it on the power play.
Yeah, I could see him as a winger on a main lineup that night. That could be interesting. But outside of that, man,
I make that face because I'm like, well, our power play really hasn't been good. So I don't know if we want to do that.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair too. But outside of that, man, nothing else to add specifically from the weekend. Anything else from you?
No, I'm excited to see this new guy on Tuesday. See what he brings to the team.
Me too. Speaking of the new guy, great transition. Thank you for just setting that up for me. Now that he's on the roster, do you know where he falls at in points on this team for the season?
He's right with Albert.
Yeah, so 15th in points, above Antito Amisto, William Vollinder, and other full-time guys in the lineup would be Cross Anderson, Josiah Didier. That's really all the people he's ahead of points-wise. So
On a bad Barracuda team, too. Keep that in mind.
Barracuda team. Yep.
So he might explode here in Grand Rapids under a good coach of Dan Watson and Brian Latshaw.
I think he's going to end up being a little steal on the AHL side of things. I think he's going to be more than what people anticipate because a lot of people just went who and
they did the
at
same
the
thing
AHL
with
level. At the AHL level we go, oh, sweet,
shiny new toy.
Yeah, I'm excited there wasn't a million shakeups, but I'm excited we got at least one there. So real quick to wrap the episode, we figured we would do two things. The first thing I want to talk about is going to be, what else happened in the Central Division in the AHL? That's the Griffins division. What else happened at the trade deadline that could impact what they're doing this season? So some notable ones would be the Iowa Wild were impacted by a trade
Oh
where
yeah.
Nick Patan is now in the Rangers organization playing with Hartford, and the Iowa Wild get Turner Elson, former Griffin, in return there. So that will be really interesting. But to see Patan, their leading scorer, gone on a team that's already not having a fun time, that's rough. Like, oof, just a big oof.
And Hartford's fourth. They're in a playoff chase right now. They're like right in the heart of it in the Atlantic. You've got Hershey at 88, who has already clinched a spot, Providence Bruins at 75, and then the Penguins at 66, Hartford at 66, Charlotte Checkers at 62. Like everybody's super close. So that was a huge like trade for them to get Nick Patan.
They also got Luke Tuprowski. I'm gonna probably butcher the heck out of that.
I just love watching your face trying to pronounce these.
Yeah, right. That's also me trying to read them.
I know.
But yeah, they got this guy here from Providence. He's had 2 games already with Iowa. He's got a goal and 2 assists. He had 17 points with Providence in 49 games, and he's already got 3 in Iowa in 2 games. He's a left winger, so that's interesting there. But outside of that, big shakeups in the Central Division, not a ton. Chicago did gain a little bit here. They got veteran goaltender Antti Ranta. He's now joined the Wolves officially. Ranta jumping in. We got Adam Scheel and Keith Kincaid already too. That's going to be very interesting. Outside of that, the only other ones, Wade Allison was acquired by the Predators from Philadelphia, and he was assigned to the Admirals. He's not played for them yet, so that is that. And outside of that, nothing else. So a lot of other moves across other divisions, but I'm not going to go over that with y'all. But that's the stuff that impacts us kind of directly here. So it'll be interesting to watch.
There's still trades to be happening. I mean, our deadline, like I said earlier, it's Friday. So I'm surprised. Like Elaine said, there was some trades that were happening, and then they didn't actually come through, like some big juicy ones. And I was like, oh, I know we cut all of that, but I was like, I wonder if something is going to move there. And nothing happened, but
so one last thing we've got to cover before we end this. We mentioned it briefly at the beginning, right? Something that Nick and I both take great pride in is being extremely credible with everything that we do. We want to be accurate to the fullest extent of our knowledge possible when it comes to anything to do with the 2 teams that we cover, being the Griffins and the Toledo Walleye. So with that, we just want to make sure that everyone understands that when we put something out there about a player, whether it's injury, whether it's a trade, whether it's what he did on the ice literally right in front of you on camera when we show you the clip, whatever we are saying with it is always going to be as accurate as humanly possible. If there's ever a point in time where we think that something is not accurate, we won't post it. We won't share it. We'll go check sources. We'll ask around. We'll make sure before we post anything.
yeah.
So
I was talking about this earlier too. Is like you and I do a really good job of fact checking each other when we talk. So yeah, we do. This isn't scripted. Like we're just talking here at our living spaces. We're not paid for this, but we want to be factual with as much information as we have. It's one thing that we take very serious, and if we do post something and it's fixed later, like a stat or a goal or an assist, like that's changed by the AHL. That's changed while we're posting this or while it's out there. So there's gonna be some small inconsistencies, but it's based off the knowledge and what we saw and what we heard and what the AHL has put out there already. So if there is anything that you know has changed, we'll edit and we'll update and we'll let that be known as well. But there's a lot of things that we held back that we had gotten from the organization because we were privileged to know that information because of the connections that we have. So that was another thing. Like last year when Pontus got left, the organization had not known that yet or had not released that news yet. And we saw it breaking on Twitter. We held that till the next episode. And then there was an incident with Nolan Stevens right after we wrapped up. We waited on that because we
It
wanted to
wasn't an
clear.
incident. It turned out to be nothing, but
Yeah, well,
this potential incident that we were concerned about when they said he was leaving.
When Nolan Stevens was announced that he was leaving, we held that because we wanted to make sure why he was leaving before we announced that and let the team announce that first. So we do take a lot of that in consideration before we post or we say anything, is like making sure we're factual. We want to have that relationship with the organization. Like, we're not trying to burn bridges here. And we want to bring fans. Like, that's the biggest thing, is expand the knowledge and share that knowledge and have everybody included. It's not anything to like put anybody down or put anybody in an awkward position or call them out. Just, we want to make sure that we're putting out the right information for people.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough just a year into this podcast to be able to bring you guys an interview with a current Griffins player. And we want to be able to do stuff like that more in the future. So we'll always make sure, if we're sharing something, that it's been fact checked, or at least, you know, if we're going to share it, we'll say we don't know the details, but we'll get you guys updates as soon as possible. We might not know the answer to the question, but we'll go find it as much as we can do. You know, we have the same resources as everybody else, give or take a few things and a few people we know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, when it comes to AHL and the information that's released, injuries or any details like that, there isn't anything.
Yeah.
Like, we have to go off of sources, and we play it very safe, waiting for the team to say something. Like, for example, Simon Edmondson's injury right now, we don't know what it is. We don't know the extent of it. We don't know if he's truly injured or if he just missed the rest of that game in Milwaukee. We're going to wait until we hear something directly from the team, whether it's on the broadcast tomorrow, a post on Twitter, or through the coach's show interview with Dan Watson that Bob does before every game. If you're tuning in on the radio or AHL TV, you can listen to that stuff every single time. We will wait to share that until that point. But we just want to make sure everyone understands that, yes, we are just two very young podcasters at this point, being only a year in. Not young by age, just young in the podcast age. But at the same time, we also will do our very best to make sure we're doing the right thing for the team, for the players, and for the organization and the fans. Like, we'll always make sure it's on the up and up. We always want to feel like we said in the Amadeus interview, we pride ourselves on being a safe space that they can come have that interview, have that conversation, talk about hockey, talk about their life. We're not going to put them in a weird spot. Never. We never want to be that podcast. We don't want to be the ones trending internationally for something stupid. So we'll always make sure it's accurate, it's good, and we'll try to make it funny too, I guess. You know, we'll do our best.
I mean, we like, a lot of people don't understand how much time and effort, like, the two of us, like you especially, Brandon, like, put into this podcast of like recording and editing and making sure, like, if you listen to our episodes probably 6 times at a minimum, and you're checking as you're listening and editing, and like, you make sure like we sound like the right stuff is coming out, you know. And I think people forget that, like, this takes time. It takes a lot of work. And so to us, like, when we see things that are discrediting us, like, it makes us feel a certain way, you know, like, we put a lot of work into it. It's not easy. It's not easy to do what we do and to do it for as long as we've done it.
For the no money that we've done it for.
yeah, we don't get paid for any of this.
No,
so
not at
like,
all.
it's just the enjoyment of being able to do it.
There's something we don't get paid. We have sponsorships that help out, but we don't make money. There's no net positive going on over here.
Yeah,
it's all going down more and more each episode.
You've been making money?
Yeah, right. Oh my god.
That meme.
And there's no direct situation that's brought this topic to light that we'll mention. We just will mention it. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. It's fine. We just want to make sure everyone understands where we come from when it comes to being accurate. We will always do our best to be accurate. We won't miss the net a bunch of times. Griffins.
Or hit the post.
Oh my god.
Hey, at least we're not hitting post anymore, you know? Like,
no, we're just hitting the back wall.
We're doing a little bit better. So.
I don't know if post or the glass behind the net's worse. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. One sounds a lot cooler than the others.
Yeah, it does. The post.
So with that, anything else you want to add for the Monday episode, sir?
No, No, let's get that win for Wadi. Let's get that 300. Let's finally figure out this monster problem that we have. Oh, you see that monster
See
problem?
what you did there. It's like dropping a wild in there, Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
well, this weekend's well, we'll talk about this weekend later. Sorry.
Yeah. Hopefully in Cleveland we can get things going there. For Thursday's episode, we will have the recap of that game specifically, and then of course Toledo Thursday, which is exciting for both of us because we got to go watch the Walleye play in Kalamazoo again. So getting to see the Toledo Walleye in person always just gives us a new, fresh perspective on what's going on down there.
That was not exciting at all.
You missed all the excitement. You showed up a period late. That's your fault. Anyways, outside of that, yes, getting to see them in person always gives us kind of a better idea in what we're talking about. So that was interesting for us, and we'll have plenty to talk about from their exciting weekend. But with that, we will wrap up the Monday episode of the Hockeytown West podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to Everything Hockey. Head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Get $2 off your order. Shout out to DraftKings for being fantastic sponsors as well. Use code THPN. And shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network for being fantastic hosts. And I think, Nick, we have some Patreon people to thank as well.
Yeah, so we have Patreon members of Derek Sleezer, Spencer Whitledge, Michael Asante, and Randy Zick.
Perfect. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Appreciate it. We'll have plenty of new content coming out there to you guys shortly, we promise. And bonus, if you made it this long in the episode, pay attention to the Twitter page between Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll be doing a raffle for 2 tickets to the Griffins versus Iowa Wild on Friday, which is their purple game. Get to see those sweet purple and black jerseys on the ice. Come out, support a good cause, and at the same time get to watch your favorite soon-to-be Red Wings and Griffins play the Iowa Wild, and come, just heckle Ben Simon a little bit with us. It's a good time. So
I think they're doing merch for that game too. Like I
think so too. They did last year, and it was super cheap and it was super nice.
Oh, cool.
So get access to that as well. And with that, we will wrap it up here. Everybody have a fantastic week. Go Wings, go Walleye, go Griffins, and we will talk to you all on Thursday.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at Brandon GR Hockey.